One of the nice things about having friends play in your living room is that you can put them on the spot and talk about them. But Jon is a long-time favorite colleague. It's hard to really convey the whole thing of Jon in any kind of... he's an extraordinary violinist. He's written two books.
Yeah.
He's written a two-volume biography of a violinist who doesn't exist. And there is a museum dedicated to this person in the town of Violin, Slovakia.
Which was owned by Count Violini at the turn of the 20th century, who lost it in a card game. The town was wiped out totally when the Danube flooded in 1953. Perfect.
Jon's built, the builder of many, many instruments. Wild and fantastic and wonderful instruments like the double piston windmill violin, I think.
The triple neck double piston wheel. Sorry to be fussy about that.
And he recently did a wonderful piece where he did Tchaikovsky's violin concerto with the BBC Symphony Glasgow, with the orchestra playing the parts.
They were playing their parts.
And Jon just improvising in place of the violin part that Tchaikovsky had written.
He had been dead for some years. So.
And lately, Jeff, where's Jeff? Jeff is here someplace. Jeff is a newcomer here. He's the relatively new cellist in the Kronos Quartet. And the Kronos is, the reason Jon's in San Francisco is actually because he's writing a piece for the Kronos where he's teaching them to play fences. And Jon started, well, this is I'm going to make up your
You can say what you like.
Jon discovered that he liked playing long strings, so he started building instruments with longer and longer strings. And then he realized he didn't actually have to build the instruments because the world is covered with long strings. And he figured out how to amplify and perform on wire fences. And he's been going around the world performing in the great fences of the world. So Australian radio sent him through the outback performing on the rabbit-proof fence, and beaming it back to Australian radio.
And the dog-proof fence.
And then he's been to Israel, where he performed on the fence that's becoming the wall. I think that was the shortest fence concert ever because the Israeli army showed up and arrested him immediately.
And Mexico, not to forget Mexico, USA.
That's right, he's been on our fence.
Yeah, but a very good one. Bush did his real best.
And so he's been building a fence for the Kronos to tour with, that they can take on their stage, and he actually scored out a whole fence piece for them. But my favorite piece of Jon's is the Islamic violin. I think the Islamic violin really... Can you tell us about the Islamic violin, Jon?
Okay, well, not only did Bush send a lot of young Americans to conquer Iraq, but he got the Australians to join in too. So the Australian government basically had a similar kind of Bush character running our place at the same time as you had Bush, the real, running yours. And so it was decided to send some Australians, soldiers, to Iraq. And I think the email came through you originally, did that right? Or
yes.
It was somehow there was a connection, and there was actually an orchestra in Iraq, probably not a very good one, but an orchestra, and this violinist had returned to his apartment to find that the troops of the willing had been into his apartment, smashed everything, defecated all over the floor, smashed his violin, stolen his CD. I mean, basically trashed everything and done really quite disgusting things in his wife's room as well. And this was sort of done in our name, so I kind of started a sort of campaign to try to send a violin back, you know, to replace this one, which we eventually did. But I can go into the details, you know, are endless, but I think we should get on with the concert, Bob.
See, this is the problem with John. He makes so many pieces that he can't even keep his pieces straight. I was talking about the one in Paris.
Oh, that one. That is part of the Islamic Violin project, but I thought you meant, no, it's because we've been talking politics over the fire, so I thought you meant, like, you know, the real one. No, that was basically, that's a violin singularity. That is basically the shortest, loudest possible thing you can do on a violin. And so we did some research, and also with some experts in Paris, explosive experts, on how you would blow up a violin, the best way to commit this act of terrorism. And it was actually quite expensive. It turned out to be more expensive than the violin, but than almost any violin actually, to do this. So eventually we just got some firecrackers and figured out how to do it. We tested it, and the test seemed to work okay. And then we did the actual thing live in a concert in Paris. Except that, I don't know, I have sort of maybe a disconnect with French people. I could not persuade them this actually was going to take place. And so everybody was standing around, the violin was suspended. It was actually rather nice. It was painted white, and in Arabic, in gold lettering, it said, this is not a violin. And it's suspended, and on came two people and lit this long fuse, you know. And around about here I started saying to, okay, now you know, boom, you know, go away. But they just kept sort of, and get closer and closer and closer, thinking there must be some, you know. And I said, really, it's going to go, you know, kabang, and then it did. And like this, like people were standing, like pretty well like where you are. And I've never seen like faces just like paralyzed in sheer fear. It was amazing. Anyway, the stuff was in concentric. The violin was laid in concentric circles all the way out as far as you know to the room. And the guy who runs the Rosenberg Museum, just to connect it to the other story, called Joseph Cheris.
Rosenberg is the mythical violinist that John has been talking
in the town of Violin. And he was there, so he wanted to collect all the pieces. So he came the next morning, like, you know, document the art. And this was the one time the cleaner came at like really early, 7 o'clock in the morning. So the whole of this sort of event was just put in the trash. So. Anyway.
No, but to go back to the Iraq story, it's I sent it.
That's right. That's
Really? That's amazing.
original
And you're here.
I'm here. It's amazing that I meet you because it is the brother of a friend of mine.
Yes.
The violin was smashed.
That's
and you
incredible.
sent him the violin.
We sent him, yes.
I know you sent it.
Yeah.
That's
No, we had,
fantastic.
but we tried to get the Australian army to take it.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't, but eventually, oddly enough, we got this guy who was like a secret service, a bit like Blackwater, is it? Like they took it. So the people doing this damage took the violin.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, that's right. So
That's
Mom sent
amazing
me
to
the
me.
email
That's-
and I forwarded it to
He
you.
sent the email to everybody and you responded.
This is like reality TV, isn't it? Okay.